Hello, welcome back to the Jake McHugh podcast, second episode. This is a number sign. I am Jake McHugh, and this is Ethan Bodsford. And today we're going to be talking about some very exciting topics. And I am excited to dive right in. Ethan, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Slept in a bit, but here we are. All right, so today we are going to be talking about storytelling. How much content is too much content? A Seth Godin quote I heard, and on what platform should you try if you're interested in creating content, and what it's like to be in quarantine, hoping that we don't have to be in quarantine ever again. So I think we should just dive right into it. Do you have anything to say before we get started, Ethan?
No, I'm ready to dive in.
All right. So something I've been thinking about this week is storytelling because of the amount of storytelling I've had to do online lately. And I realized how helpful it's been to articulate what my mission is and all that stuff, just to kind of clarify where my path is going. And having done that for an application and poorly on a previous podcast, I've learned a lot, and I suggest that anyone who is trying to figure out maybe their course in life or just wants to do something because they're bored should turn on a camera and take 50 takes of, well, first you gotta spend some time, but take as many takes as you need to figure out what your story is. And the way I would do this is I would figure out who you are by asking what you're doing right now, where you want to be, what your past is, and then combine all those through your mission. So, for example, mine would be, I'm Jake McHugh. I am a songwriter who studies classical double bass, and I am on a mission to combine both music and entrepreneurship through my journey and everything like that. And I've been doing that since I was younger. I used to work and do yard work and stuff and play music. And I'm hoping to go on this mission to combine them so I can do it both full time and eventually go on tour and do this all the time and have a great life. And so that would be an example of combining all of them.
Right. So it's basically kind of like a formula of who you are, what you're doing, and what you hope to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also just adding in things that affected you or things that have, inspired you or anything like that. It can be whatever you want because it's your story. But it's helped me a lot to go clarify what I'm trying to do. So that was my thoughts on that. And I don't know if it even needs to be good. You could just film yourself doing it really badly. And then if you're like, that's not who I am, then you can sit there and think about it for an hour and do it again. So
reflection.
Yeah, exactly. It is a good reflective exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the next thing I want to talk about is how much content is too much content. And my answer to that is there's no such thing. There is an unlimited amount of stuff you can put out and no one has to watch it. And the only thing it will do is make you better at making content. So I'd say if you want to put out 100 pieces of content a day, which Gary Vaynerchuk does and some other people do, go ahead and do it. Someone will find it interesting and you'll be able to reach a larger audience with that. What are your thoughts on that, Ethan?
I mean, yeah, honestly, I couldn't agree more. It's not only are you bettering yourself and your skill set by producing more content, but the more content you get out there, the more likely it'll be that you will be found. Like a friend of mine started a band and they released an EP a year ago, and they're reaching people in like Denmark and Thailand. So like once you get your content out there, it's kind of a thing of like, you might as well, because why not? That's literally just the question of why not. Like what do you have to lose,
I agree, because I think also just showing your journey and showing yourself getting better at what you're doing also has some value. Something I realized this week is there's all kinds of celebrities that are talking about what it's like to have made it, but there's not a lot of people talking about what it's like to want to make it and are like have high failure. I mean, have high chance of either failure or success. So just by documenting what it's like to not know and what you're guessing is better than not documenting anything. Because no one else is doing it. And even if everyone started doing it, you're going to fail in a different way than everyone else is.
Mm-hmm.
So might as well do it.
Yeah. And showing your journey, interestingly enough, might inspire others, which is a pretty big plus.
I agree. And if nothing else, at the end of the day, you can show this to your grandkids and they will know your 20-year-old self very well. So I, for one, have a lot of documentation of what it was like to be 20-year-old Jake McHugh.
Oh my God, me too.
So that was really what I wanted to touch on. I don't think there's too much content you could make. News channels run content 24/7, and people are always watching the news. Mm-hmm. So if the news can run negativity for 24 hours and it sells, then you can sell something for 8 hours a day or 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day that is way different than what's going to be on the news.
Yeah.
The next thing that kind of goes into that is maybe you go, well, what if I have writer's block? I don't know what to do. I don't know how to write enough stuff to occupy people's time for 24 hours a day. Well, you're in luck, because I heard a really good Seth Godin quote that I'm going to share with you. And that quote is, there is no such thing as writer's block. And the point he made is, no one ever said that you had bad writer's block. Basically meaning you can always write bad work. And the benefit of writing bad work is the more you do it, the more output you have, the more likely you are to write good work. Just by, even, maybe you're a horrible writer, but if you write every day for 20 years, the probability that one of those times you wrote something really good is way higher than if you never wrote anything.
Yeah. And not only that, but it's like exercising a muscle. You know, like if you exercise that muscle more, you're going to get better at it.
I agree.
That's just how it works.
I was doing the same thing with songwriting for like a month, and it started just getting to a point where I decided not to think about it too much and just write.
Right.
Because it was like, oh, I'm not good enough. But if you make a rule that you have to film what you wrote at the end of the day, then there you go. That's the end of that game. So, And who says you have to write good music or anything? All the music on the radio, a lot of people argue is horrible and people still like it. And who says you have to like good music? No one. I like songs that are my guilty pleasure songs, and you probably do too. So make them and share them with the world. Ethan, you wanted to talk about platforms and experimenting with different platforms, right?
Yes. So one thing that I have kind of worked with myself, only musically, is experimenting not only with different platforms, because if you were like, for instance, in Jake's shoes, where you're creating, or early Jake, we'll say early Jake, where he was songwriting and just creating music and posting it online. He's actually a good example I like to use, because he started making YouTube videos, he started this podcast, he started writing LinkedIn articles. Anything that you're even slightly interested in, just do it, because you're creating something that you want to create, which should be important to you first, and you alone. Is you're getting to do what you want. And I mean, what's stopping you from doing that other than a few people saying your content isn't good? Who cares? It's yours. But
I will say they will come. I've learned.
yes, yes, they will. But like, say you're a writer and you want to experiment a bit more. Um, Start a vlog on YouTube, like of you doing wild stuff, or like your everyday life. It doesn't matter if you wanna start a vlog, start a vlog. If you want to start writing, start writing. If you want to start making music, make music. It just do what interests you, and especially if you think that there is someone to listen, go for it, because the likelihood of you finding someone that will listen or read, um, it's the more content you make is makes it more likely, but it is likely that you will find someone.
Yeah, I'd say if you're consistent, especially.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Something that reminds me of that we talked about is we were talking about how one of the benefits of these platforms to create on kind of gives us an excuse to go do things we wouldn't ordinarily do. I don't know if you remember this conversation, but a lot of people go, oh, well, everyone's on their phones and no one does anything. But how many people go hiking on a weekend now because they want to show people on Instagram how they went hiking that would have just been sitting at home watching TV before?
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
and one more thing that I'd like to add into this. Um, you don't know what's going to be the turnout of it. You might actually find something that you really like to enjoy, and you might shift a lot of energy over to that. And it might be successful, it might not, but you shifted a lot of energy into something that you enjoyed, and that's all that really matters, is that you enjoy it. You might find a new niche that you like, which is why you would shift all your energy to it.
I agree. Yeah, it's ultimately. I don't know if I would ever argue that you should always do what you love in work all the time, because sometimes that's not an option for everyone. But I would say I think you should always try to do something that you love all the time. Like,
Yeah.
so if you get off work, and that whatever that is for you. If it's watching TV, watch TV. I mean, but I'm just saying I think you should always do something that you love. Otherwise, you're going to feel very drained by the end of the day for sure. And that's why people want to go on 100 vacations a year or whatever. So the other thing I wanted to talk about pertaining to that is you want to experiment on platforms, and I think you should, consistency is really important. So unless you hate the platform, I think it's a good idea. If you were to go, is it a good idea to post on Instagram? I'd say yes. Is it a good idea to post on Facebook? I'd say yes, because there's an audience there. It might be 3 people, but if you're starting from 0, then you have way more people than you did. You had 3 times as many people, as a matter of fact, than you did before. And I think that is really important, is you should be able to go to the viewers and not make the viewers go to you. So it's very aggravating when you're following someone on one platform and 100% of their content is go to my other platform. So you can add that in because you might have a different type of content that is on other platforms that you wouldn't want to put on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. But I think it should be a balance of creating for the audience that's already there, because you don't want to go to TikTok and watch 100-part 1-minute episode long form podcast that's very serious when you're trying to watch funny TikToks the whole time. And then all of a sudden there's this 2 idiots talking about why you should do what you love every day for 60 seconds and then a like for part 2 going on at the top. So I think it's important to fit to the design of the platform as well when you go to those platforms.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
So that is on platforms and if you should create on that platform. The other thing I've thought about that I might start doing is blogging, because it's relatively easy and it's just another way to add content. Seth Godin, the guy I talked about earlier, writes a blog post every day and hasn't missed one in I think over 13 years or something insane.
Really?
And that just goes all back to what you do doesn't have to be good. Now he's a great person, so it's not like he's writing garbage every day, but I'm just saying. The last thing I wanted to talk about with Ethan is, and I want Ethan to start this one because he brought it up, is the quarantine a little bit so we can document what it's like, what is happening, what it's like outside, and all these things. So when people later go, what was the quarantine like? We can pull this up and go, this is exactly how it felt to be in quarantine.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up from a student's perspective.
Oh, can I ask you to do something first?
Of course.
Explain quarantine as if you don't know that this happened.
Right. Cool. So basically what we're going through in the beautiful state of Virginia, our governor has put kind of, he's basically put the state in a pseudo lockdown, meaning all places of business except for essential places like grocery stores, restaurants, places like that, everything's closed. So like hair salons, barbershops, and places like that, places that aren't really considered essential, clothing stores and things like that, like your stores that aren't dedicated, that are dedicated to certain things and aren't like grocery stores as well as clothing sections and electronics, but basically all of those are closed.
And it's a nation, well, it's a global thing. It's not just in the United States.
Obviously different countries have different standards. I can't think of a better word. But basically what our state and our nation, I guess you can say, is going through is no more than 10 people in a group. We have that 6 feet apart, social distancing kind of thing. I swear to God, if I hear the word social distancing one more time, it's driving me nuts. But that's basically what's going on. It's just like distance yourself from people, and everyone's wearing masks. Everyone when I go out to like Walmart or Target or something, everyone is wearing a mask. It's insane. I never thought I would see it, but here we are. So that's really basically what we're going through society-wise, is just the pseudo lockdown. But my personal experience with the lockdown, first from a student's perspective, and I'm sure other people will have different opinions because their ability to adapt is probably better. I have had a very difficult time adapting to online learning. My my work ethic, because I'm not in an academic environment, my academic work ethic, unfortunately, I must say, has gone down a bit. I haven't been keeping up with assignments, which I'm kind of disappointed in myself for, because it's simple. I put crap in a calendar and just keep track of things. But it's been weird and difficult. But I mean, the professors are also going through this, and they understand, and they're there to help, which is kind of cool. I've experienced a lot of great assistance from my professors. I don't know if Jake has the same experience, if he's even needed such assistance, but I've been having some good experiences with receiving assistance from professors. But from a citizen, just a basic citizen standpoint, it's really weird to go on Highway 288 and see only like 5 cars. You know, like it's strange, and like I said with with the masks. It's weird going to Target to get milk or something, and like half of the clientele is in like these homemade masks or like surgical masks. It's just weird. It seems kind of surreal, you know?
Yeah, I would say my experience has been it hasn't bothered me that much. But it's been just it sounds like something you'd read about in a third world country or
Mm-hmm.
like a declining first world country rather. Um, the stores when you go into them, there are lines usually wrapped around the buildings, especially with Costco's. Um, the stores I've been into, they've literally either spray painted lines onto the ground of how far away you can be from people when you're waiting to get in or out of the store. They've built barricades with carts so that you can't like skip the line or do anything like that. Stuff like that. And then when you get into the store, there's no food at all, basically. So it's not. It was. That's been kind of crazy. The other thing is going outside a lot because you don't want to be isolating in your own home constantly, or you're going to go insane. And the dynamic with people is really strange because you'll walk down the street and everyone that's also on the street will go to the other side so that you don't have to be too close to each other, but everyone is like waving to each other and saying hello because everyone's super lonely at the same time, or that's what my experience has been.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed as well. I've actually noticed two extremes of that. The one extreme is the people that just don't verbally interact with you anymore. They don't wave, they don't look at you, they just care. Well, sometimes people glare, but they just carry on with their day. And then there are people that just have complete disregard for that and will barge through crowds and such, just with complete disregard of the social distancing kind of thing. It's insane though.
Yeah, it's all a very strange thing. I would say I haven't seen any crowds, so I've also been home, I think, for a few weeks now without having left my neighborhood, so that's a part of it. um, but like just walking down the street and stuff, watching people like go to the other side of the street. But then before, it wasn't as common. Not every person I'd pass by would say hi or do anything, but now it's like every single person is
Yeah.
bored, so everyone wants to say hi. And that's kind of interesting. I hope that sticks around after we finish all this up, at least for a little bit. With school, it's I'd say I can definitely agree that it's hard to stay motivated at home. But I also think it's hard to stay motivated at school with school. Not saying I do bad, I don't, but um, I get easily distracted with my other ideas. So that isn't something I've really had to suffer any consequences about. Um, it is, I'd say when this all started, I didn't think it was actually going, I had no expectation that this was going to be anything more serious than any other virus like the flu or even, dare I say, like Ebola or H1N1, where it's just you hear about it, but nothing ever happens.
Right.
Um, but that has not been the case, and we've all been stuck at home. Everyone on the internet is really bored, and I'm starting to see some really crazy people do some really crazy things. Um, and sometimes I watch shows and I see people crowded together or going on dates or doing any of those things, and I go, wow, people used to be able to do the coolest stuff.
No, yeah, that's something that I've found myself doing is looking back at pictures of like when I'm with friends or like you said when you're watching TV and there are like people in a store not wearing masks like closer than 6 feet, and I'm just thinking, wow, that used to be us. That's weird. Like,
Yeah, it's been crazy. What I'll say is for me it's been actually a massive opportunity to have this time for myself. Um, but the other thing I will say is if you're watching this if you have any ability to make sure this never happens again, that would be the right decision. Because I don't think this could happen ever again.
Don't make us go through this again.
Yeah, so I'd say it's done a lot of unexpected good, but that hasn't come without its consequences. And it's like walking through a dystopian Soviet Union movie, basically. So I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that?
Oh God, I'm sorry. Something weird. Other than wash your hands. No. just wash your hands. Like, come on. That's really all that I have on that is just things have been rough, but we'll get through it.
I'd say it's definitely going to be fun to hopefully get to explain to my kids this weird thing that happened when I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
So I think that is about all we're going to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed the second episode of the greatest podcast in the world. And I will say, you might not know it's the greatest podcast in the world right now, because in 5 years, it'll be the greatest podcast in the world if it's still running at that point, and not today, because we're still trying to see if this is our thing. But we are getting the hang of it. We are failing and succeeding, loving, laughing, and living. So I hope you all have a great day. Eat some good homemade food, because they're not getting food anywhere else. And hang in there. Do you have anything last words, Ethan?
No.
Goodbye, people.